Keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real with Reverend Laura.
When something breaks down, it is our human nature to instantly want to repair it. I think it seems easier to want to fix something than it is to let it remain broken and try to find a new solution. I remember how it was and feeling comfortable with the familiarity of it, and we want to keep that. We remember that comfortable feeling, that our knowledge of how things were brought to us. And so when it's broken, we want to get that feeling back instead of trying to create a new way of doing it, because that's unknown. You know, it can be very scary finding new ways of doing things that we are familiar with. To reimagine how things should work, how life should flow, and how I'll get my needs met takes us into the unknown. And unless we're open to using our innate creativity to find unique solutions, then the fear can be overwhelming. And it's even scarier than that to reimagine what can be is the idea of leaving something dismantled, never to be that way again. That can be quite frightening. You know, the what-ifs take hold and they run rampant in our thoughts until we begin to imagine all kinds of awful scenarios in which things are going to happen because we've left this thing broken and we're not fixing it and it's not going to be the same way that it was. And it just begins this whole cycle of fear. So many things in our world right now feel like they've been turned upside down, that they've been broken, or maybe even that they've been taken away from us. We are in a period of time in our world where there are so many things still unknown. You know, it's not the first time we've been here, but I think it's probably the first time that the entire world was aware of it and affected by it to this great degree. You know, in the Middle Ages, we had a plague that killed 30 to 50% of the entire population of Europe. And then in my grandparents' early years, the Spanish influenza killed about 500 million people, or 1/3 of the world's population at that time. Or they not necessarily killed, but they certainly became infected by the virus. 1/3 of the world's population was affected by the Spanish influenza. By contrast, it was about 700 million people in the world that have been diagnosed with COVID-19 in 2020 and 2021. That's only about 10% of the world's population. Big difference from what happened with the Spanish influenza. But we knew about it. The entire world knew about it. They didn't know about it all so much with Spanish influenza because the technology wasn't there to communicate it. And as we know that with our experience of COVID-19, even if you didn't become ill with the disease, you certainly were affected by it. Our world has been shaken, and it's time for us to find creative solutions to how we move forth from its effect. We have a grand opportunity right now to begin to create a world that works better for everyone. Mark Nepo says this in his book, "At least once in every generation or two, humanity remakes itself, such as we are right now. And such a remaking is both profound and painful." You know, one of the things I love most about our philosophy and our spiritual practices that we have here at Centers for Spiritual Living is that they encourage us to experiment. And being a former science teacher, I can really get into that. I love to take a challenge, to take a problem, and look at it from the point of view of, what if I tried to do it this way? What if I chose this solution instead of going right to my old way of handling things? To use Mark Nepo's term, what if I reimagined a new solution? What might my experience be then? Now this gets my creative juices flowing. This puts me into the flow of divine possibility that is always wanting to express itself. You know, within the grand scheme of life, infinite possibilities exist. So why do I feel the need to keep trying to do things the same old way and getting the same results? Each one of us has an opportunity as we move into the next months and the next years of our life here on earth to look at the ways that we can create a world that not only works for us, but is also a benefit and a blessing to others around us, a benefit and a blessing to our community, to our connection in the world. We were not created in isolation, and we are not meant to live in isolation. So why do we think our solution should only be for ourselves? Mark Nepo puts it this way: we are called to recreate the universe by choosing love over fear, by choosing interdependence over self-interest, by choosing care over brutality. And so ultimately, everything we do matters. This is a grand opportunity to experiment and to see what kind of a world we can create. The old world worked well for some people, better for others, and worse for some. But everything that we do matters, and everything that we do is leading to creating the next experience of this world. What if we could balance that out so that each and every being on earth, not just the human beings, but every being, is living its life to its full potential, reveling in those infinite possibilities that exist as a unique incarnation of the divine in this time, in this space. This is our world work, and this is why we've come here to Earth.
Keeping it real with Reverend Laura.